Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in New York. Tonight on America Decides, words with ramifications. Ukrainian President Zelenskyy says that President Trump is trapped in a, quote, disinformation bubble. This after the President of the United States claimed Ukraine was responsible for Russia's invasion. Today, Trump, in response to Zelenskyy, called him a dictator in a social media post. The back and forth occurring a day after the U.S. and Russia met to discuss the possible outlines for a peace plan to end the now nearly 3-year-old war in Ukraine, launched again by Russia. The New York City mayor faces jeers and a judge. The case against Eric Adams goes before the court as the Trump Justice Department pushes to drop corruption charges leveled against New York City's mayor. DOGE targets the Defense Department. The pending cuts in staff there after the Trump administration fires and then tries to rehire nuclear weapons workers in a Department of Government Efficiency that's DOGE reversal. I want to start tonight with Nancy Cordes, who joins us from Miami Beach, Florida, where President Trump is expected to speak soon. And when he does, Nancy will have to bow out of that. So for as long as we have you, Nancy, Ukraine, the President Zelenskyy, it's quite a story today, as it was yesterday.
And I don't think that story is over, Major. These two men keep writing new chapters. The scathing post that President Trump wrote about Zelenskyy today really was an escalation in this war of words. As you pointed out, he called him President Trump called Zelenskyy a dictator. He said he was doing a terrible job. He said that he needs to take a deal sooner rather than later, or he won't have a country anymore. It was a really surprising set of accusations when most U.S. allies would agree that Zelenskyy and the country that he leads, Ukraine, have been the victims in this situation and that they were attacked by Russia. What Trump was responding to was the fact that Zelenskyy had accused Trump of essentially swimming in a sea of misinformation after Trump said that Zelenskyy was a leader with extremely low approval ratings, hovering around 4%, who was imposing martial law when he needed to get back to democracy, without recognizing that Ukraine only imposed martial law when it came under attack in 2022. So where this leads, nobody really knows. In the words of one European official today, we really don't know exactly what the U.S. position is. They said they don't know how to understand it because it's so different from what they have been hearing just a few months ago.
And Nancy, just for the audience's benefit, there was an election in Ukraine in 2019. Volodymyr Zelenskyy won. That was 75% of the vote, defeating the sitting incumbent, Petro Poroshenko, who got 25% of the vote. There was also an election in Russia in 2024 in which Vladimir Putin won 88% of the vote. Why? Because Alexei Navalny and other leading opposition figures were disallowed from having access to the ballot through all sorts of technicalities arranged by whom? Sitting President Putin. You can answer for yourself which of those two scenarios sounds more like a dictatorship. Nancy, what event are you at? And as I understand it, there is a Saudi sovereign wealth fund related to it?
That's right. This is a summit that is put on every year by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, led by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. It's typically a summit, Major, that brings together leaders of industry, investors, Middle Eastern luminaries to talk about investments in the years to come. You don't typically see current public officials speaking at this conference in Miami Beach, certainly not the President of the United States. But President Trump is someone who we know has very close ties to the Saudi. This investment fund that you mentioned is the same fund that put $2 billion into Jared Kushner's private equity firm after President Trump left the White House the first time. We know that the Trump Organization has been looking to expand its real estate holdings in Saudi Arabia, that Live Golf, which is again run by the same investment firm, has held many of its tournaments at Trump golf courses. So there are very close economic ties, and then, of course, there are these growing diplomatic ties. We just saw yesterday that striking scene of Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, sitting down with his Russian counterpart to talk about ending the war. Where did they do that? In Saudi Arabia. So it is leading to some questions about where President Trump's diplomatic ties with Saudi Arabia begin and where his financial interests end. But it'll be interesting to see what he has to say about those Saudi relations here at this conference in Florida, Major.
Crucial questions indeed. Nancy Cordes, thank you so very much.